afternoon, morning, or night, wherever and whenever you are. If this is your first time joining us, welcome. This is a live episode of Text2, live and on the web right now on Ustream, the show that discusses the best of everything technology, computers, home theater, gaming, science, and more. I am Mark Murrin, and this is Text2. Every week, or every other week rather, we try to bring you the latest and greatest out there and talk about technology and computers and things that matter. And this week we've got a lot to talk about, and we're going to jump right into that in just a minute. Recently we did a poll, and we asked which mobile phone you're more inclined to buy, although I probably should have included the iPhone 5 in this, although it's not, we don't really know the full specs on it yet. So when the poll was created, I did not include that. But going by what I have here, the Windows Phone 8 versus iPhone 4S and Android. Android led the way at 50% of the people polled, and the the Windows Phone 8 came in second at 33.3%, and the iPhone 4S was a distant third at 16.7%. Now, in no way do I believe those stats to be an accurate prediction of things per se, but it was just interesting to throw a poll up there. But at any rate, we've got a lot to talk about today. We're going to talk about Windows 8. We've got news of the new Office 2013 suite coming out. I've got some live screenshots of that. We've got lots of science topics too. What else we got? We're talking about a little bit about YouTube and their new blurring technology. We've got Office 2013, as I mentioned, and Office 365. We couldn't leave that one out. AT&T mobile share news. Lots of other little stories coming your way here. So what we're going to do right now is we are going to fire up those news stories.
Program complete. Enter when ready.
All right, the first exciting thing, of course, is that of Windows 8. We finally have a general availability release date, and that is October 26th of 2012. For all those excited about Windows 8, or even the Windows 8 haters out there, I know you're hiding out there somewhere. So RTM is coming by that time. So will we go from Windows 8 complaining about the new interface, or will we get to the point where people start saying, hey, when can I get my copy? Because it's at RTM in August. We're going to have an RTM in early August. It's coming quicker than you can think, so people who have access to TechNet, MSDN, other sorts of mediums out there will be able to get their hands on the bits here in early August. We should stop and think about Windows 8 and the Microsoft push here, and it's really a pretty big reflection of what Apple has been doing. And I guess it's part of that old adage, if they can offer X, Y, and Z, hey, Microsoft, what have you got in terms of mobile and desktop universality, the whole universal package that Microsoft is now pushing. And we shouldn't think of Windows 8 as just being Windows 7 with a start screen slapped on top of it for tablets per se. It's really a mobile platform with desktop added in. And there is a lot of good stuff going on Windows 8 that people don't really know about under the hood. On the desktop experience side, Microsoft's been pushing the start screen and leaving behind the desktop, but rightfully so. They're trying to make up some market ground there for the tablet wars that are underway here. Windows 8 has also been rethinking the way it does things like backup of files. They have a new file history feature, and this file history feature is really just an extension of the previous version's feature, System Restore, from previous Windows instances. And we can dig into that here with this little screenshot. They have they also have the system refresh, which is a side note, and they have the clean options in the control panel now. You can wipe out the desktop and start clean right from the control panel without having to redo things back to a pristine state. This is great for enterprises, and it'll be great in my case, in the enterprise realm. It's kind of revolutionary from a Microsoft perspective. So we're going to take a closer look at the file history details here. Less than 5% of consumer PCs use Windows Backup. That's Microsoft's tool that it's had for years and hasn't really gained much ground with that Windows Backup. Personally, I prefer Acronis when it comes to Windows imaging anyways. Microsoft said this explains why it's now introducing a system of continuous backup in Windows 8. The new system file history backs up content stored in the libraries, desktop, favorites, and contacts folders to chosen external storage device by default every hour. In a blog post on last Tuesday, Microsoft Program Manager Bohdan Rasiborski said the new approach was necessary as the old one had failed, leading many people to lose valuable data. Microsoft new backup system file history will back up content stored in the libraries and desktop and so forth automatically. And it's a good thing when you have an automatic backup that you don't have to think about, compared to in the past where you would manually have to do it. This makes a backup tool much more effective, and that's one of the reasons why I personally like Carbonite. Not really, just a little plug there, of course, not a commercial per se, but Carbonite does it all automatically in the background, and now Windows Backup, or rather File History, will do so. And it's a good thing they're using an external medium there as well. Rasiborski added this solution was a way to make data protection easier so that it barely requires any user interaction. File history will hopefully provide a very simple, engaging restore experience that makes finding and previewing and restoring versions of previous or personal files much easier. Now the question is, will businesses use this? I think you'll see this in businesses, but businesses will still use their more inclusive systems, at least on networks, even with Windows Server 2012. And this system only goes to physical media, not to the cloud, not even SkyDrive as of right now. Rasiborski went on to elaborate that while the cloud is great for storing files you'd like to have access on the go or for sharing files with others, backing up terabytes of data to the cloud requires a pretty specialized service, and that's understandable. Many cloud services support local sync, where the data in the cloud is mirrored to your local system. Sync solutions, by their very nature, copy changes immediately to all locations, which means that accidental deletes and inadvertent changes or corruption will be synced as well. So that's another reason why they're not using that type of a system. Users of Windows, this is the other Windows 8 tidbit for you here, that users of Windows XP, Windows 7, Windows Vista will be able to purchase and download Windows 8 Pro for just $39.99. That program will starts with Windows 8's general availability on October 26th and will run through January 31st of 2013. And it lets users install Windows Media Center for free once they have completed the upgrade. It's a pretty awesome deal for $40 when you think about it, compared to past offerings. Microsoft trying to get the big push here into Windows 8. Of course, businesses will probably be less apt to get to Windows 8 since most are still just getting to Windows 7 in some cases. That's not to say that it's Windows 8 and Metro that is scaring people away, but this little push here will certainly help on the home front for sure. At $39, as long as you can jump in on it. Now, there are some rumors that Microsoft may continue this cheap price offering here at $39.99 and continue to offer it beyond January 31st of next year, but time will tell if they decide to do that or not. Now, the upgrade experience is going to differ depending on which version of Windows you're running. For instance, Windows 7 to Windows 8 offers the most seamless upgrade. All user setting, personal files, and apps remain intact. But if you've got Vista or something previous, then personal files will make the jump, but the apps will have to be reinstalled, of course, after the upgrade is complete. And so there you go. Windows 8 is coming on October 26th to the general audience, but again on RTM in August, coming for people with TechNet and MSDN. So hang on, it's going to be a fun ride here. So now we've got Office 2013. Microsoft had a press conference last Monday by CEO Steve Ballmer and revealed lots of details on Office 2013 or Office 15, depending on how you want to call it, but their official name is Office 2013. It was revealed that it is only compatible with PCs, tablets, and laptops that are running either Windows 7 or Windows 8. That's a pretty big catch. Systems which run Vista, XP, or even older versions of Windows will not be able to run Office 2013. This implies that nearly half of all computers running Windows are going to need to upgrade their base operating systems just to get to Office 2013. That's a move by Microsoft probably to entice people to get to Windows 8, although, as we've said, most organizations, at least on the business front, are still trying to get to Windows 7 and Office 2010. Microsoft has released a preview of Office 2013, and it's available for download. And you can go out to TechStew and download the go to the link there for 2013 to download your copy to test out. The full details on the system requirements are out there as well, but the basic system requirements I have here, and these apply to the final version, not just the customer preview. Operating systems, of course, are limited to Windows 7, 8, Server 2008 R2, Windows Server 2012. Systems are going to need a CPU that's at least 1 gigahertz. That's pretty much most people's PCs, I would think, these days. They have 1 gig of RAM on 32-bit systems, or 2 gig for 64-bit hardware, 3 gigs of space, and a DirectX 10 compatible card if you want to have hardware acceleration. Of the largest features, of course, are the touch capabilities and the cloud integration with SkyDrive and Office 365. The has a hideable ribbon now, and of course it's included on ARM devices and Microsoft Surface. Access files across different devices with preferences and dictionaries. You can stream the programs when away from their computer. Save documents to SkyDrive. In Excel, they'll be selecting cell rows will now reveal a quick summary and show things like average and tools and so forth. Intelligent autofill, another one. Let's see, I think I have, yes, here they are. Thought I had a slide of that there. PowerPoint, better widescreen integration. Skype will be integrated and include 60 minutes of Skype World Minutes each month. Of course, now they're going to give you 20 gigs for SkyDrive instead of 7. Yammer, social network Microsoft just acquired, is going to be integrated and work with SharePoint Dynamics. Now here comes the interesting part. This is the users that can subscribe to Office 365 Home Premium. That's typically your average consumer. Office 365 for Small Business Premier, or Office 365 Pro Plus for Enterprise. Subscriptions will allow upgrades to future versions of Office and access onto 5 different devices, including Macs. This is where Microsoft is really making a pretty big impact. I mean, Microsoft is just busting at the seams here with all sorts of new software. We've got Windows 8, We've got Windows Phone 8. Now we're talking about Office, and now to throw things even more together here and exciting, we've got Office 365, which could be a pretty sweet deal depending on the price. Office 365 will basically stream the app, the Microsoft app, to your PC, so that no matter where you're at, you can have the app installed in less than 90 seconds in most cases. It's fairly quick. The question is, what is the price going to be? You know, what's too much to have an Office subscription, and are people going to take hold of the subscription model over the old I have a disk in my hand licensing model? And I think those days are probably slim as it is. Subscription model shouldn't seem that shocking. In fact, the disk model, where you have a physical disk in your hand, is becoming the antiquity of computers, so to speak. But it would be attractive, especially if it was reasonably priced per month, say $10 a month or $5 or $6 even, giving people access to all their favorite Office apps, depending on which version of the Office 365 subscription you subscribe to. And 5 devices, that also includes Macs. There's going to be an Android version. We've got iOS. So basically you can have Office on all of those devices and only pay up to a certain price per month. Now, of course, that isn't officially revealed just yet on the pricing, but I'm sure Microsoft will be releasing details on that, and we'll see if they hit the price mark, and could be worth it. You know, if it's just taking a rough estimate, if it was $10 a month, that's $120 a year over 2 years, $240 gets you Office on 5 devices versus, say, spending, I don't know, you'd have to look online to see, but I think the average going price for the middle tier Office is around $240 for one device. So over 2 years, it could be good, although the life cycle has been around 3 years. But given what flexibility this gives you, I think that's pretty much the right price bracket. But we shall see as we move forward here. Now, I do have some screenshots of Office I can queue up here. Bear with me for one moment. Dun, 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 dun. There we are in our release preview of Microsoft Windows 8. And okay, there we go. Let's make sure I got all my windows straight here. So here we are in the Windows 8 interface. And you can see I've already installed Office. The icons are there in the upper right here. We have the hold on one second, let me just adjust one thing. We're doing this on the fly, folks. This is the first time fully live. And there we go. That should show up now. There we go. Got a little cursor going on there. Looking good, looking good. So just taking a look at some of the apps. Info Designer 2013, Info Path Filler. This is the consumer version preview of Office 2013, which is basically the Pro build. And these are the apps that come pre-installed if you select them all. Access 2013, Outlook, Excel, Link 2013. Now that's an enterprise app. We use that in our organization. And it has some enhancements over Link 2010. One of them, you can actually scroll. Yeah, that's right, folks. If you're a user of Link and you know what I'm talking about, people start sending you messages and they put a link somewhere up in Link. And they want you to click on it. And they say, scroll up and click while 5 other people are chatting. You can't do it. Well, Link 2013, it actually works. I tested it out today, in fact. They have finally fixed that bug years later. Of course, OneNote, PowerPoint 2013, Word 2013, and Publisher 2013 all on here. OneNote and all these other apps that you see right here, these are not Metro apps, of course. They are the desktop apps. There is currently a OneNote you can download from the store, which I'm going to do that just to show you a comparison. There is a Metro version of OneNote, perfectly downloadable right now for testing. And there will be a Link Metro app, but it's not out there yet. So if we go out to the store here, Here we go, out to the Microsoft Store. Getting the store ready for you. I sure hope so. Hopefully I set up the, yeah, there we go. Okay. Alright, so I scroll down to productivity, and you can also search too, but I'm just taking the long way around, I suppose, here. Productivity, there we go. Let's take a look in the productivity area, clicking on that. And here we are. Oh, no, I ended up in finance. Ah, darn it. Alright, productivity. Try that again. And there we go. We have OneNote MX. Unknown as to what the MX actually stands for, but I'm willing to bet it's probably the Metro Experience. So I'll click on that guy, and I will say install. Here we go. This is the future, right here in the Windows Store. So it's installing. Let me back out of here. And there. Alright, we wait on the icon to appear here. It is installing. Downloading. Now while we're waiting on that, let's just jump into OneNote 2013, the standard desktop version here. Going into the desktop. Bear with me here. If you're listening to the audio version of this, I'm sure it's even more boring, so I apologize. But here we go. We are setting up the book here in OneNote, connecting to the cloud, of course. Everything's connected to the cloud these days. Cloud is the future. Microsoft is rolling in that direction. And here we go. We've got OneNote. Good old OneNote. And if we go to... It's still loading here, I think. Yeah, there we go. So there we are. We're in OneNote. If we just started typing, for instance. There. We're over here. We're down here. As you can see, the ribbon is hiding, of course. There it is. When you click view, it shows up. So there's our old-fashioned ribbon. And you can see this is sort of a full screen. Well, not quite, because you still have the taskbar down at the bottom. Now, I'm going to minimize this, and we're going to go back to the start menu. So hitting the Windows key. Back out here. And where is the icon? Perhaps still loading. Let me take a look. Back to the store. The growing pains of Windows 8. There will be some and many, I'm sure. So scrolling back over here to productivity. There we go. OneNote. There you are. Okay. We're getting there. Clicking install. Now the progress bar is going at the top. The size is 11.5 megabytes. This should not take that long to install in actuality. So I'm going to let that continue to install, and while that is installing, I'm going to continue to talk a little bit here about some other stuff that's breaking news here. That app isn't available right now. Please try again later is what I'm getting. That is bizarre. Microsoft has been talking about Office for Windows Phone 8 and the 2013 integration. Windows Phone has been growing slowly in actuality. It will only be 4% of U.S. smartphone sales in 2012, according to Strategy Analytics. But the questions are, we're moving forward here, of course, and Microsoft is hoping to break into the market better. They also say that those numbers should go up a little bit next year, I believe is what it said as well. There's a new Office Hub and docks that will enable synchronization, and an implication that there will be a reading position sync. So if you're in the middle of a dock on your desktop and then you open it on Windows Phone 8, you'll be right smack in the middle. And the web interface is optimized for mobile use. Meanwhile, Strategy Analytics says that Windows Phone will be, like I said, 4.1% of the market by the end of 2012. So there we go. And so, is Office integration going to bring people to Windows Phone? That's another question. Is that enough to bring everybody over to Windows Phone? Probably not. Not at first, at least. But we got to give it some time to really see how that breaks down. So let me just check something here. There it goes. Okay, so it's not a connectivity issue, as I checked out here. Let's just jump back one more time, try it one last time, and then we're going to give up on the OneNote, clicking install. So, anyways, moving on to the next news story while we attempt that, but I don't think that is actually going to work, unfortunately. There was our system requirements for Office 2013. It's worth mentioning that in the OneNote MX, if you could see it, there is a new hub type interface that they make use of instead of the ribbon. So it looks like in the future that Microsoft is going to move towards this sort of radial hub for accessing various things as you need them. So if you're typing in text and you need a different font and you highlight the font, and a certain part of that radial dial, a circular dial, will highlight the font selections and things that you might need for that particular task you're doing at that moment. And that's probably the direction they're going to go for getting away from the ribbon in future Metro versions of Office. So you can see a little bit of that in OneNote MX if it would actually install. Of course, it did not work in our case, in our test case here. The next big thing, YouTube face blurring tool. YouTube has rolled out a face blurring tool that will let you automatically blur the faces of everyone in your videos. Of course, protecting the privacy of kids at a basketball game, for one example, or a more intense example offered by YouTube is to share sensitive protest footage without exposing the faces of activists and so forth. YouTube does warn that the feature may not work perfectly, but it is a start. Now here's the twist here. You know, we've got this face blurring technology, and this is great for if you want to be anonymous and not have your face out there. But now YouTube, combined with Google Plus, is saying, hey, you have to have your real name, or you don't have to. They give you the option. They recommend that you put your real name for comments and other new videos that you post. And they take that from your Google Plus information. So that's becoming a little bit of a privacy issue, and maybe in the next episode we'll dig into that a little more. So it's kind of ironic. They come up with this face blurring technology, but yet at the same time take a step backwards in terms of anonymity on the net with requiring or offering that you should probably use your real name, and then they guilt trip you after you click no, I don't want to, before you can finally get out of the screen and keep your name anonymous. And let's see, what else do we got here? We've got, let's see. Yeah, there was a little clip of the video blurring example from the YouTube pages. So next up, Firefox 14 was released. Mozilla released Firefox 14 with a number of minor new features, better web standards, support, and some headline-grabbing improved security. The secure search feature uses an SSL encrypted HTTPS address by default for all of Google's searches, protecting queries against packet sniffing. And on to the next topic here, we have the AT&T mobile share rather. AT&T has announced their shared mobile data plans. Like Verizon's, the AT&T plans will give you unlimited talk and texting and charge you for tiers of gigabytes per month. But unlike Verizon, AT&T isn't getting rid of the existing plans, so new subscribers can choose whether to go on the new tiers or not. The new shared plans are set to launch in August. Now, last month, Verizon announced that it would offer a share everything plan, and AT&T, of course, has mobile share. The AT&T 1 gigabyte plan with one smartphone is around $85. That's $40 for the plan, the data plan, and $45 for the phone. On Verizon, the combined is $90. So you're paying more on AT&T than on Verizon. Both carriers are charging $10 per tablet, $20 per modem or hotspot, but AT&T lowers the price for smartphones with a bigger data plan. And at 1 gigabyte, you pay $45 per smartphone, and that goes down to $30 if you choose the 20 gigabyte option. That's twice as large as Verizon's biggest bucket. So they are giving you at least a 20 gig option there. Though both carriers are still charging $15 per gigabyte in overage, 50% increase from their individual plans. Mobile is in addition to AT&T's current plans, and Verizon phased out its entire postpaid portfolio outside of Share Everything. So some folks were forced to use the shared plan. So at any rate, once again we have mobile companies charging out the wazoo here for shared plans. For instance, I still personally use the AT&T, and I'm on their so-called grandfathered unlimited plan. Of course, once you strike 3 gigs, if you accidentally stream a podcast, for instance, they send you a message saying, hey, you've struck 3 gigs. After this, you're going to be throttled. And in my case, they did. And if you think throttling is just a minor slowdown, no, it's not. They have been lowering the bandwidth, we'll say, from 1.5 megabit to 0.1 or 0.2. It's pretty atrocious, and it's pretty ridiculous. You're paying for an unlimited plan, and you're not really technically abusing it. You're just using it in a normal sort of way, and then they really cut you down after that. So I don't know. Take it for what it is, but more of the same, if you ask me. All right, so let's see here. I'm going to move on to the social cam. Autodesk has bought SocialCam for $60 million. That's right, Autodesk. Yeah, they're usually known for CAD software, and they agreed to buy SocialCam. The deal worth about $60 million, according to both companies. The deal is expected to close within 30 days. SocialCam plans to continue to operate mostly on their own, but with the backing of Autodesk. SocialCam is the #1 application on Facebook with 3.7 million daily active users and 56 million active users, according to app data. The numbers have been trending downward recently, however, and SocialCam has a small staff of only 4 employees, which rely on the scaling ability of Amazon Web Services. They had been targeted by others, such as Zynga and Google, until this move. CEO Mike Siebel stated that he liked the Autodesk acquisition because it let them remain independent. We loved the opportunity to grow as opposed to folding into another product or extracting out of the pieces. SocialCam was launched in March of 2011 as a mobile project within a live video startup, Justin TV. They were becoming more of a gaming video site, and Siebel took SocialCam through the Y Combinator program, which had backed Justin TV in the past. So things started out as SocialCam being another Instagram for video, until earlier this year, SocialCam usage skyrocketed. Facebook turned on some of the open graph features, and Social Cam has started featuring YouTube content, all within the boundaries of Facebook and YouTube's public APIs. They have more than 30 investors, including many Silicon Valley entrepreneurs and some Hollywood names. And now for the big story, or one of the big stories of the last week or two here. Yahoo confirmed that they had a server breach and they had 400,000 accounts compromised, and they also apologized. We can now add them to the list of companies that have been compromised due to hackers, and you're bound to see more and more of these as every day goes past. So if you think your passwords and data are secure out there in the cloud, think again. Be careful what you put out there. But Yahoo has confirmed that the usernames and passwords of more than 400,000 Yahoo Voices accounts were stolen from their servers earlier this week, and that the data was posted online. And that was last week, rather, I should say. Indications were the information has since been removed, but a direct link to the original source still seemed to exist, and it did. It was accessible as long as the bandwidth was there and their server wasn't overloaded. The breach wasn't just for Yahoo, but it was also Gmail, AOL, Comcast, Hotmail, MSN, SBC Global, Bell South, Verizon, and Live.com. And if you got to TechStew, you can see there's a link on there where you can test and see if your password was one of the ones in that file, if you so choose. And there's more details on all of this. Now Yahoo did confirm that an older file from the Yahoo contributor network containing approximately 400,000 Yahoo and other company usernames and passwords were stolen, but only 5% or less had valid passwords. They were working on fixing the vulnerability, and the people who did this said they did this as a way to show Yahoo that they had a vulnerability. So that was the Yahoo snafu, if you will. And now we move on to the oh yeah. But before we go to the oh yeah, let me just jump back to Office here for a second, because I forgot to show some of the actual screens from there. So here we are, back in the Windows 8 Metro. We're just taking a brief sidestep backward in time here. And let's see. Aha, OneNote MX did load. So back to the OneNote MX that we were trying to show before. Use the Express settings just to jump into things here, folks. Here we go. We're creating the OneNote guide. Setup is complete. I can feel the bits churning in the background as we speak. It is coming, just like 2013. Office to a desktop or tablet near you very soon. Hang on while we fetch your notes, is what it's currently saying. And here we are. All right. So we are in the full screen Metro interface. And let's see here. Where can we type? Why do I not see it? There's our radial dial. See over here on the right, we have this new, very cool radial dial. Now, I don't know, is it possible for me to zoom in on that? Let me try something here. Specific area. No, that's not working. Specific window. Follow cursor. Aha, here we are. So I click on the dial, that's the circle here, and as you can see, I have zoomed in so you can see this better. The gives you various options for text-based things such as bullets, pictures, tables and rows and so forth. So if I type something here, now we're on the font. Of course the color seems to be on white. Let's change it to black. Test. Why is it not? This is very strange. Oh, somehow I've ended up in IE. Go figure. There we go. Alright, we're up here. Ah, that looks a little better. Quick notes. This may be a byproduct of trying to stream from a VM. You cannot see the text, unfortunately. But at any rate, this radial area here is the replacement for the ribbon, which is pretty cool in OneNote, and it will pave the way for future Metro versions of Office. So now we go back here. We can take a look at Word 2013 as it loads in the Word 2013 preview. Let me just change it back to here. Yeah, there we go. Excellent. Here we are. Now in Word 2013, presents you with a templates kind of thing here. So we can choose just the basic blank document, or we could choose, say, a blog post. Hey, there we go. Let's choose the blog post. And that takes you into Word, into that template. And type some text here. It lets you choose to report things here. So we have the standard ribbon, which you can hide now, which is kind of cool. If you don't want to see the ribbon, it is gone. Just like that. The ribbon, to me, has always been a useful thing, but I really do like the radial dial interface of OneNote in OneNote MX. This is the standard interface here. If you go into New, Open, Save As, and so forth. Nothing too exciting. It's your basic Word. And we have PowerPoint, of course, which now has better widescreen support. You can choose to open a presentation, and gives you different themes to work with from the get-go. And you get the flat Metro look in there as well. But at any rate, let's move on here. And we're going to talk a bit about the OYA console. And it is this image right here. An Android-based console. Or supposedly an Android-based. We don't know. It's not out yet. The details are that one new company called OYA, pronounced OYA, and that's O-U-Y-A, proposes to take on big companies like Microsoft, Nintendo, and Sony. The Los Angeles startup wants to develop a console that offers free games, popular on smartphones and tablets, and bring them to the big screen. Yeah, your first thought might be, why would I want to play Angry Birds on a 61 or 60-inch screen? I don't know either. OYA is trying to raise money through Kickstarter, and it has done exceedingly well at that. You can go out to the Kickstarter link through the Text2 article, and you'll see they're up there pretty high. In fact, let's just take a quick gander. Where did they end up? They ended up at... they have 42,000 backers as of right now, and they are now at $5 million with 16 days to go, ranging in $1 to $10,000 per bid, I believe, on the Kickstarter type website. OYA is has investors that include Jay Adelson, the founder of Dig, Hossein Rahman, the founder of Jawbone, and Joe Greenstein, the founder of Flixster. Yves Behar, who has helped develop the Jawbone headset, has apparently designed at least the images of the console. They claim there may be a working console, but we haven't really seen it yet, other than these images of the device, or maybe a prototype perhaps. The console will have an 8 gig flash storage medium, a quad-core processor by NVIDIA, and connect to the TV using HDMI. The console itself uses Android 4.0 as the operating system. Ouya would follow a free game model where games only charge if there's an additional content for the items. So, let's see, I lost my place. Pardon me. So yes, Android 4.0 at the base. As with iTunes, developers would get a 70% revenue share from anything sold. Anything the developer can launch and test the game on the console as well, without fees, as opposed to, say, in the iTunes realm. The Ouya creators claim to have will have a fully functional prototype and would begin shipping it in March of 2013. So I don't know. At first glance, it seems to be just a way to get your Angry Birds onto your big screen, but the creators state otherwise. They're hoping to get big game designers to jump on board. It'll be modifiable and can be modded. Now that's going to be extremely hard to pass, because if you're going to have an online content or online ability to play other people, modding is really a bad idea. People can hack systems and have unfair advantages. Now they're using a free-to-play system where basically the game is free, but the content costs money, and that's been around for a little while, at least in some realms. Say MMOs, for instance. Star Wars, I believe, or Star Trek went free, but then some of the content there, in that case, you have to pay for. But by the time you add on all the content that you want, you're probably up to the price of a decent quality console game too. I don't know. I don't see this thing taking off. So we did a little poll of our own here, and we said, can the Ouya console compete with big companies? And we said yes, no, or no, but it'll create its own niche market. 44% say it'll create its own realm, its own niche market. 36% say no, and 20% said yes. So I would agree with that. I would say they're going to have their own little corner of the gaming market out there, a new frontier, so to speak. They could pave the way for other things. But we already have some other competitors out there like OnLive, and you can often get games for nearly free on OnLive, or try them out for free. And they stream over the internet, provided you have a decent connection. So that is the Ouya console. So apparently, let's move on to the next goodie here. One moment, folks, while we connect your call. All right, there we are. So the Xbox Music is going to allow subscription streaming and a la carte purchasing. It was recently announced the Xbox Music service would feature both a subscription-based model and the ability to purchase individual tracks, according to a Bloomberg report. The service will reportedly allow users to stream music for a monthly or yearly subscription in addition to traditional purchases. And they'll have an online locker of sorts that may allow customers to store their music collections online for a fee, with the interesting part being that the locker could store music purchased from other services as well. Now that would be really cool if it could. And the music will be playable across a wide range of devices, notably, of course, those that run Windows 8. In other words, it sounds like Xbox Music will offer similar functionality to what is currently offered by the Zune service, with the added benefit of having a name that isn't associated with grim failure. Xbox being a household name these days, so to speak. So that is that. And in addition to that, Microsoft has been busy. Microsoft has obtained Xbox 8 domain names. Through the National Arbitration Forum, Microsoft has won the rights to a series of Xbox-related domain names formerly owned by Cheng Wan of China. The disputed domains include things like Xbox Companion, XboxLiveTV.com, XboxPhone.com, XboxTablet.com, but also xbox8.org and xbox8.us. Microsoft was likely most interested in regaining those just to protect its own IPs and the immediate use of things like Xbox Live, TV.com, and Xbox Phone seem pretty obvious there. But it's tempting to think that maybe they would be looking at Xbox 8 as a console name due to the two domains that it reference it. But Microsoft has already been integrating Xbox Live and the Xbox name into its consumer products, including Windows 8. It would seem strange if a domain guessed that name, or a domain name out there was that name. In fact, Xbox 720 or Xbox Next sound a lot better, if you ask me, than Xbox 8. This isn't the 8th iteration of the Xbox. Maybe Xbox 3? Yeah, we could go with that. So that is the Xbox 8 information there, or the domain names rather. So now we're going to move on to the rather interesting science topics of the week. This is where the excitement occurs. We get exciting. So, science from TechStew. Right after this commercial break. No, I'm just kidding. We don't have commercials. So the first story here in science is that there is a revolutionary single-stage British spaceplane that is vying for Europe's heavy lift needs. The Astrium Space Transportation and OHB AG will lead the design of a new heavy lift vehicle for the ESA, the European Space Agency. They had a bidding war that included a third bidder, Reaction Engines of Britain, to ESA Director General Jean-Jacques Dordain. The British bidder is a company that for more than 10 years has been designing a space plane they call Skylon. That's this guy right there, Skylon. Let me just clear this here. There we go. The Skylon space plane. Now, I have information on that. This is exciting stuff, actually. It's pretty cool. It's reaction engine Skylon rocket would cost a lot of money, around 10 billion euros over 10 to 12 years, according to Mark Hempschel, company's director of future programs. And the key component has been the center of the company's efforts for years, this Sabre synthetic air-breathing rocket engine. And that's the diagram you see on the screen there. The Skylon spacecraft itself takes off and lands horizontally on its own undercarriage, which is rather interesting. It's capable of carrying 16.5 tons of payload to low Earth orbit and could deliver cargo, supplies, and crew to the International Space Station as well, with some modification, I believe. It was needed to actually make that happen. Sabre takes on the role of a jet engine when you're in suborbital flights, and a rocket engine when you're placing satellites in orbit. Testing is underway on the precooler. That's the part on the left there in this diagram. Precooler goes into the jet engine, and out comes steam. You also have a silencer and so forth. It has to transform the air entering the engine at 1800 degrees Fahrenheit, 1830 to be exact. That's about 1000 Celsius, to minus 238 degrees Fahrenheit in a hundredth of a second. ESA has sent teams to monitor the development, and a third series of demonstrations of the precooler is set for August. So they didn't win the bid officially, but ESA is interested in checking them out and seeing how they progress here. Some of the details are rather cool as to what could happen down the road with this Skylon space construction. You can see all this on the TechStew website. Of course, that's http tech-stew.com, tech-stew.com. And one thing was the Skylon space construction, where they could build spacecraft in an orbital base station. Kind of think Star Trek here. Think about the orbiting area where they built the Star Trek Enterprise, at least in some of the earlier versions of Star Trek, or the newer ones, I should say. The OBS facility would enable large ships for the exploration of the Moon and Mars to be built. In addition, through the use of inflatable modules, an orbiting hotel could be created. And that is that image there. Now I do have a little video clip here. I can play some of that here. In this video clip, they talk a little bit about
This is the skylon
personnel module
and logistics module, which carries people and cargo into space and delivers them to orbiting facilities such as the International Space Station. Here the module is configured to carry 8 station crew members and 2 tons of supplies and equipment. It is carried by Skylon, an aircraft-like spaceplane projected to be operational before 2020.
Yeah, they're targeting 2020
The
in that
module
case.
is loaded into the payload bay like any other payload, and Skylon can carry the module without any special modifications. Skylon reaches space using 2
Taking off
hydrogen-fueled
horizontally.
Sabre engines. These breathe the air from the atmosphere until they reach a velocity of 5 times the speed of sound and a height of 26 kilometers. Then the Sabres convert to pure rocket engines, burning liquid oxygen and liquid hydrogen, and power the spaceplane into orbit. Once
Yeah,
in
this
orbit,
version basically a
the
single
payload bay
stage,
doors open,
which is
and
pretty
Skylon
unique,
performs the maneuvers
especially
that
the
will take
horizontal
it to a
takeoff.
rendezvous with the space station. The passengers and crew will be more than 40 times safer than in current crew delivery systems. The International Space Station has housed people in orbit since 2000 and is expected to remain in operation until at least 2020.
This could extend the life of
Skylon could fly
ISS.
servicing missions during its development program and then enable the space station to be refurbished and serviced for an extended life beyond 2020.
So that's Skylon. You know, it has some really good potential if investors will latch on to it, but it still has a long way to go. They're still in the testing phases with the engines themselves. They don't have a working vehicle. It's just a concept vehicle. If they get the proper backing, they could become a heavy lift alternative to some of the existing craft we have right now, such as SpaceX and you know, the Russians and so forth with the Soyuz spacecraft, or the Deltas, and over here in the United States, various other options out there. But this is very, very interesting, especially the orbital space port, basically, where they can build spaceships in space. It's intriguing. It's the right direction to go. At least I think so. Now we move on to the next topic. That is of bionic eyes. We're reaching that point in time when we're beginning to see more devices to help the blind see in the area of bionics. Such implants restore vision to the blind, but only if blindness was due to a faulty retina, such as with macular degeneration, diabetic retinopathy, or other degenerative eye diseases. Examples of these bionics are now the Argus 2 and a BioRetina. Now the Argus 2 is about 115 grand. Requires a 4-hour operation. They install an antenna behind your eye, and and a pair of camera-equipped glasses that send a signal to the antenna. The Argus 2 was developed by Second Sight, and the antenna is wired into your retina with around 60 electrodes, which creates the equivalent of a 60-pixel display. Users state that they can see shapes and track objects and even read large writing. It's available in Europe right now, so if you need one, go to Europe. In both cases, actually, I believe here. Now the BioRetina is a little more exciting. That one was developed by NanoRetina. The implant costs less than $60,000, and rather than an external camera, it uses a sensor placed inside the eye on the retina. Procedure taking only about 30 minutes. It could be done under a local anesthetic. The BioRetina uses a 25 by 23 resolution, that's 576 pixel, sensor on top of your damaged retina with 576 electrodes on the back of the implant, which they implant into the optic nerve. So then you have an image processor that converts the data from each pixel into electrical pulses, and they get encoded to your brain, and you can see different levels of grayscale. They also use a standard pair of corrective lenses modified to send near-infrared laser beams through your iris to the sensor at the back of your eye. A photovoltaic cell sits on the sensor and provides a maximum of 3 milliwatts. And if you go out to the website, you can see a video on how it works. Now, the BioRetina is going to begin human trials in 2013. U.S. approval, unfortunately, could be a way off, as with the Argus II. But, you know, it's not that hard to get over to Europe, I suppose, if you have the money. And, you know, we're getting closer to Star Trek's Geordi LaForge's glasses as each year passes. We still have a long way to go till we get to color. Many of these we'll see in the future will have more electrodes and higher resolutions. But color is still a ways off. It's a lot harder to achieve. A lot more processing going on as well. So the next story is actually a game. Yay! A new game called Mars Rover. And that is Lost in Space. I lost the image, sorry. Here we go. There we go. Mars Rover on Xbox 360. Now, we have the pending Mars Curiosity rover. It's going to land on August 5th. That's a Sunday, so if you're marking your calendar, get ready because it's going to be pretty exciting. And if you look on text too, there's the video 7 Minutes of Terror. It is one of the most frightening and most technically challenging landings ever attempted by NASA or anybody for that matter. A complex series of processes all occurs within a matter of 7 minutes. You have the capsule hitting the atmosphere at high rate of velocity. I forget exactly what, 15,000 or more miles per hour, maybe 17. And then you got to slow the craft down. You have a window trajectory. You have to stay on course. Now the problem there being that it takes a round trip of about 14 minutes for a signal to come from that spacecraft for another one to come back. So 7 minutes for the signal to get back to Earth, and then another 7 minutes for Earth to send a signal to the spacecraft. Now, you have to rely on the computers to do all this, so everything is pretty much automated. And once you get past the trajectory phase, you then have to deploy a supersonic parachute that they have specifically designed for this mission. And it is pretty big, a pretty big parachute to slow it down. But even then, that's not enough. And once we get to that point, you have to blow off the, well, before that, at some point in the 7 minutes after the parachute is deployed, you have to eject the heat shield in order to get at the rover. And once you get at the rover, you then have to slow things down even more, fire some more jets, and then you're going to lower the rover down. And in this image, you can see the jets on the craft are slowing the descent down while the rover swings freely below. And that's where you have to, in the game here, you have to do all 7 minutes of terror basically, and they grade you based on how well you do. And this uses the Connect sensor, so you're stepping forward and backward to control the trajectory at first. Then you're using your hands to touch icons on the screen that represent blowing open the heat shield. And then once you're down here lower, as in this image, you're using your left and right arm to speed up and slow down the ascent, which consequently, depending on which hand you raise and lower, will change the positioning of the landing itself. And then they'll grade you at the end. They'll give you a 0 to 100. How'd you do? Or if you didn't make it, it'll tell you blew up and you have to restart that sequence over again, whichever you were on. The Mars rover is a 2.5 billion Mars rover, officially called the Mars Science Laboratory, and it's going to search for Mars's ability to support life. Yes, it enters the atmosphere at 13,000 miles per hour on Mars. And that game is free on Xbox 360. So there you have the Mars rover landing game. I've tried it out. It's pretty good. You know, it's not the type of game you're going to play over and over and over again, but it's kind of fun to have a competition amongst friends and see who can get a higher percentage. And the other big news story, at least in the science world, was that of a step towards clean energy. The biggest laser pulse was fired in human history. It could power a nuclear reactor and solve the energy crisis forever if it could actually sustain itself and not be highly inefficient as it currently is. The shape pulse of energy generated 500 trillion watts of peak power compared to the 1.875 megajoule shot earlier this year. 1,000 times more than the whole United States uses it at any given moment. And they used an array of 192 lasers for laser fusion here. The facility aimed to ignite a controlled version of reaction found in the heart of stars and in hydrogen bombs, of course. So this occurred at the stadium-sized National Ignition Facility in California earlier this month, July 5th to be exact. And that is an image of one of those fusion mirror setups that they have out there. And it is a step in the right direction, although the pulse only lasted for 23 billionths of a second. The laser array was not firing at a target, but within 2 years, scientists will fire the 192 lasers at a 1 millimeter pellet of hydrogen. And that is the long-term goal. So we're still a ways off from any real fusion reaction, sustaining, and so forth. We are getting there. So moving on to the next topic here is, well, there's a picture of the multiple stadium-sized building where they did the test, which is pretty cool. So our next topic is that of the RC And what do we have this week in the RC flight segment? Well, we have the lawn chair balloon in terms of, this is RC and flight, just to clarify here. The first thing is the lawn chair balloon flight that ended due to hail and snow. And if you guys haven't seen this, this is it.
Water. Something.
It was a terrifying end to a risky trip.
Careful! I cannot!
Kent Couch and his
Couple of guys
co-pilot,
out west.
Fareed Loftus, came crashing down to earth in Post, Oregon last night, and so did their dream of floating into the record books on 2 lawn chairs and 350 helium balloons.
I'm relieved to be on the ground. We were quite disappointed that the storm got a hold of us.
This is what it looked like to them, a
adult
rapid
version of
descent.
Up.
At one point, they were 14,000 feet in the air. But they began losing balloons late Saturday, then thunderstorms threatened, and winds failed to
Pesky
cooperate.
birds pecking
They were
at the
pelted
balloons.
by hail.
Oh, incredibly chaotic. Mixed up, thrashing, nothing like I'd experienced in the past.
They
They're lucky to
crash
be
landed
alive,
after
too.
about 6 hours and only 30 miles from where they started, only to watch their stubborn contraption take flight again without them. Liftoff was yesterday in Bend, Oregon. They were headed for Montana, packing parachutes.
So, hey, a couple of guys in Oregon heading for Montana. 6 hours and get trashed by hail and snow and nearly kill themselves in the process. Pretty great. Not great for them, but pretty interesting story. The RC tip of the week, I suppose, if we're going to try to have one every week, might be how to balance a plastic prop. And there's lots of videos out there, and I have one here in particular.
Okay, gentlemen, we're going to start the balance
Outlines
prop.
how
First
to
of all,
do this.
We'll take a prop that you've got, whether it be electric or gas. Get a drill size of the same hole hub. Drill a hole in the block of wood, place the drill in there, and make sure each blade is the same length. What we'll do is slip it on, mark the blade, rotate the prop, and mark it again. Make sure they're both the same length, because otherwise you're taking off more material than you need to. Okay, now that we've got the prop blades of length, we've got to be sure that the entrance holes have no burrs. Otherwise the cones won't seat properly. Once you clean those out with a drill or a knife, be careful about that. You can still do it. We'll assemble this.
It's always good to balance your props because you could have damage to the
we
engines
also
if you
have
don't,
to have the heads,
due to the
balancing
vibrations and
heads
so
at the proper height
forth.
to clear the prop blade. To do that, to get them both the same, use any kind of a block of wood of size, like I've done this. Turn it around, get the other one, put it under the
Basically,
block
look
under
for
the
a big
same
dip
head,
in the
snug
prop
it down.
when you get it up
Now
there.
you know you've got them in exactly the
And
same
that
length.
side is the heavier
helps in
side, so
balancing
you want
the
to
prop.
sand off the back
Now
side
we're
of
going to
that.
put it on. Be sure
Careful
it's
to
on
stay
a
away from
nice,
the leading
even, flat
edges
surface.
or the
On
front
the
of
first
it.
test we find it's not too bad.
Then you want to flip
In
it
fact, this one
around
was
180
balanced
degrees
earlier.
too.
And what we're going to tell you, like if it sits like this, we know
And
that's
even
a heavy
after
blade.
you've done that, the
A
problem
couple of
could be
ways
in the
I've
hub
done it,
itself.
on plastic props especially. You can take a single edge razor blade, lay this flat on a surface.
Or
You
sandpaper.
can scrape off the material. And just keep on trying
grit.
until you can do it on the face or the back of the blade. Make sure it's right. Now, one other thing, turn it around completely 180. If you find it's still off balance, and yet it's balanced this way, then the problem is in the hub. On these smaller hub props, you don't have a problem because they're so much light material. On the bigger ones, like wooden ones, you would have to take something off the hub. Otherwise, your prop is nice and balanced. That should work fine. Now go overall with kind of a light 180, 200 paper and just smooth out everything. So you got the edges and the surfaces evened up. Then to get a nice tone completely, you can go over real fine, maybe 300 or 400. You can go over the entire blade, front and back, and it'll look really, really good. Now you got a balanced prop that'll work fine. Eliminate vibration, which would cause all kinds of troubles. That's pretty much the basics of balancing. Okay, gentlemen,
That is the basics of
we're going to
balancing.
start to balance a prop.
Oh, no, that's okay. We've already seen that. We don't need to see that again. That is pretty much the basics. You can get yourself a decent magnetic prop balancer out there, or any version really. Should do the trick in that case. So that is the RC. If you guys haven't already seen, now that I can actually stream this stuff live, hold on 1 second. I want to see if I can add a file for your viewing pleasure here. And let's see, right here, under, please stand by while we attempt to connect your call to something rather interesting. All right, here we go. I'll just pick one here. All right, let's see if this works. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. I'm not sure if it'll support this format. No, I don't think it is supporting that format. Well, don't make a liar out of me. We'll do it this way. Hang on here. The joys of being live and trying something on the fly. All right, I think I got it here.
Right here. That's, oh, we reach out there a little.
All right. There. should work. Specific window. There we go. This is just an example I mentioned, I think, last week on the show of the camera that I put on, the keychain camera. Very loud video. Makes some pretty decent video. Has some shadowing issues with the number 11. Pretty good fun. I've gotten up to I don't know how many now at this point. I believe we are at about 14 flights out of the keychain camera at this point, and continues to impress. Although, like I've said before, long term I want to get to something a little more exciting, such as remote camera, and then remote camera with some goggles and do some first-person flying. That in the realm of RC flight. So at any rate, that is the main stories for this week, and now we are moving on to the picks and tips of the week. That is the ever exciting section. Here we go. Picks and tips. First one is that of Pixlr.com, and that is an online editor paint program. As you can see, it looks, at least in this image, it looks kind of like an online paint, really, or a Photoshop. It has layers, supports layers. It's free. You can create new images and save them locally, which is a rather nice feature. Open images from your computer. You can open URLs, images from libraries, and so forth. So that is Pixlr.com. I'll put a link to that in the show notes. Pixlr.com. Now, as far as hardware goes, I do have this hardware pick of the week. I have to find the image. I had it here. It was out of order. Where, pray tell, did the image go? That is not the image. Not the image, I do say. I bet you I'm not going to be able to find it. Most likely. No, we're not talking about 2013 again. Well, at any rate, I don't have the image here. But what it is, and let me just, oops, there we go. The hardware pick of the week is the Escape 150 Adventure Kit, or the Escape 150 Power Pack. To be more specific, there are two different versions of this, and if you go out to goalzero.com, you'll see them, and they're rather cool. So if you need emergency power, these are some pretty inexpensive ways to do it. The 150 Power Pack was on Woot the other day for a mere $79. I think it normally goes for about $150. It basically is a lower end version of the Escape 150 Adventure Pack, which includes a solar panel. It will power things like cell phones, cameras, tablets, CPAP machines, DVD players, radios, and you can use it for USB 12 volt on the car and AC on the wall, and it will power your laptop for about 6 to 10 hours, your cell phone for 150 hours. So if you're camping or something, this is also a great tool. It'll recharge from multiple sources, and you can charge it back through your wall outlet at home, and you can also use a solar panel, and they sell those online, and I think you can see it right there. That's the big guy there, and there's an image of it next to a laptop, of course. And yeah, you can add on the Boulder 15 solar panel. I forget how much it costs, probably 100 or more. I can't remember exactly. And everything can recharge. The total recharge time from a wall, about 5 hours. I believe it's, what is it, 10 hours, I think, on a solar panel or something like that. Yeah, 10 hours on the Boulder 15 solar panel, which isn't included on the base package. So that is the hardware tip of the week. Now, for the other tip of the week, and that is that of software tip. I wanted to just mention for a minute a Windows 8 tip. One that was perplexing me as I've been dealing with Windows 8 as my main machine for a while here. Getting the Metro IE back. If you have other browsers installed like Firefox or Chrome or anything like that, and you've done an upgrade, for instance, or you've done a new one and then you've installed those browsers, and you set those as your default, you've probably noticed that Metro IE just vanished. You may still have an IE icon in your Metro interface, but it's probably not really Metro. It's probably just the desktop version of Metro, as I found out. And there's a main reason why this occurs, and that's what you see here in the image, is that basically you have to do this. You have to make IE the default for several protocols, and it's the only way it works. So you go into IE, and you go into the protocols section under Internet Options, and you look at the FTP, HTTP, HTTPS, and RES protocols, and they're probably unchecked because they're not defaulted to Explorer, and you have to change that to checked off for Internet Explorer. And I can show you exactly what that looks like here on the Metro. And once you do that, you'll see the correct version of IE, which I have here on my demo. So of course Metro IE looks like that. Looks like a bigger E, Internet Explorer. So once you've made the change, things will open up in IE and in Metro when you open links. Unfortunately, there doesn't seem to be a way to make it so that you can default your Firefox or Chrome and be able to have links open in Metro, and have Metro at the same time, rather. You're going to be forced to either not have Metro at all, or anytime you want to open a URL, you're going to have to cut and paste it into one of your default browsers, and that's just silly. So as of right now, it's an either or thing. Internet Metro is kind of cool, but for now, in my case, I'm sticking with Firefox and Chrome. Chrome being my primary browser, at least right now. So that is pretty much all I've got for this episode 19 of Tech Stew, and that is going to wrap it up here, pretty much. And just remember to keep on cooking with tech, and we will see you next time on Tech Stew.